From being first overall in the 2016 draft to being a problem to being in trade talks again, here's why Ben Simmons needs to be traded immediately. The 2016 wasn't the Great Haul of 2003 by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a deep draft that yielded some legit all-star talent, very productive role players, and 2 NBA selections in 2023. The first overall pick was Ben Simmons out of LSU. Scouts drooled over his combination of speed, size, strength, ball handling, defense, lateral agility, and speed. He was the consensus #1 overall pick and went to the 76ers. His rookie year, he balled out, and in his next 3 years, he made the All-Star team. Then, in the 2021 playoffs, he passed up this layup, and it all came crashing down. Joel Embiid had strong comments after the Game 7 loss against the Hawks.
But I thought the turning point was just, we had an open shot, and, we missed.
I'll be honest, I thought the turning point was when, I don't know how to say it, I thought the turning point was when he had an open shot, made one free throw, and missed the other. Then they came down and scored. This essentially put the blame all at Simmons' feet, and Doc Rivers didn't help matters. Coach Rivers essentially questioned whether the 3-time All-Star and 2-time All-NBA defensive team member could be the point guard on a championship team. Ben felt some kind of way. He held out for the next season and demanded a trade. He got what he wanted and went to Brooklyn in a trade package highlighted by former MVP James Harden. He then sat out the entire 2021-22 season with back injuries and managed to play 42 games this season, with season averages of 6.9 points per game, 6.1 assists per game, and 6.3 rebounds per game. Those numbers are a far cry from the production of other #1 overall picks and decent role players and not so good role players. So what's going on? During the Nets' brief stint in the playoffs in 2022, sources told The Atlantic that Simmons claimed a mental block. Could be the reason that his back wasn't healing as expected. This, of course, was compounded by him citing his mental health as an additional reason for not wanting to play that season. It was so controversial that the Nets called a players-only meeting to discuss it. And for a player trying to get over physical injuries, mental health issues, and mental blocks, this would probably make things worse. Ben sat the season out anyway and watched his team lose. This year saw the Nets break it up. They traded KD to the Suns right after they shipped Kyrie to the Mavs, and then there was only one. Ben Simmons may have felt like Charlie, seeing all the other kids get sang out of the chocolate factory with morality songs, and he'll get to stay put and get the factory to himself. But that's probably not going to be the case. In late March, head coach Jackie Vaughn announced Ben Simmons would be shut down for the remainder of the season. The reasons for the shutdown was due to the laundry list of issues: his mental health, his back, and now his knee. Coach Vaughn said that he would begin a rehab program, and their goal was to get him back to the player he was. What do you think? Can Ben Simmons get back to his all-star form under an inexperienced head coach? So, if an inexperienced coach and unstable franchise are unable to get him on the court, much less increase his production level to meet his talent level, what about a Hall of Fame coach and the picture of a stable franchise? A proposed trade from Bleacher Report that does just that. The proposed trade would send Simmons to San Antonio to play for Pop, for Doug McDermott, and a late first-round pick this year from the Suns. San Antonio is in a full rebuild, and an influx of a high-upside risk may be just what they need. Since Kawhi Leonard left, there hasn't been much high-end talent near the Riverwalk. McDermott is a high-quality role player that could really contribute to a playoff team. But the Spurs, well, they're not a playoff team. That would be a great thing for Simmons, especially since his latest round of roasting on Twitter. This shot with Ben in a hoodie next to Nick Claxton was one of the more tame ones. Most of the tweets are reaching back to when Ben said this on Twitter on August 24, 2020, "Watching my team get swept hurt, and I don't ever want to feel that way again." And you know that the Twitter sphere is a lot like a plunger because it loves bringing up old S. FanDuel brought out the SpongeBob memes to take a jab at the Nets star. NBC Sports Philly kept it brief. Some compared it to a two-act play. We also got an Uncle Shay Shay reaction gif, a LeBron strut gif, and general trolling like he watched twice. In San Antonio, this wouldn't happen right away at least. Their roster is nowhere close to competing in the playoffs, but they do have a wild amount of cap space. And with the draft lottery coming up, who knows? The Spurs have a 14% chance to land Wemby at number 1, a 13.4% chance at the second overall pick, 12.7% chance for the third pick, 12% for the fourth pick, and 14.8% for the fifth pick. If they land that top spot and manage to pair Wemby with Simmons, that makes them one of the most interesting teams, not just in the Western Conference, but in the NBA. What do you think? Would getting Wembanyama to San Antonio change their fortunes? Many people think so because he's the highest-rated NBA prospect since the King in '03. But what about Simmons? He would get the chance to play under one of the greatest coaches ever with no playoff expectations, and since he's only 26 years old, the future could be bright. And if anyone would be the ones to fix Ben Simmons' broken game, it would be the team that took on a project at the 15th overall pick in the 2011 NBA draft and turned that into Kawhi Leonard. The combo of Simmons and Pop could spell disaster for the constantly shifting Western Conference. Pop would coach him hard, but if Simmons actually wants to get back to who he was, there is literally no active coach or organization that is more qualified to do so. But that's assuming they can get him right. Ben Simmons is not just physically suffering, but so is his mental health. We saw just a few of the Twitter posts that he undoubtedly sees on a daily basis. The more we learn about mental health, and Ben's specifically, the more serious we know it is. We often think of athletes as superhumans, especially the ones at the very peak of achievement. But when Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles came forward about their mental health, the picture became a little more clear for Ben Simmons. Although he's not on the level of achievement of Naomi Osaka or Simone Biles, he mentioned his absence from basketball not being about the money. It was about his well-being. How do you respond when negative comments are made about you? What if it were not thousands, but millions of trolls and haters? This is definitely compounded by him being in Brooklyn, a city where the media is ravenous, predatory, and provide content 24/7. The San Antonio media is as far away from that. Will there still be trolls? Sure there will, but nothing cures negativity like winning. And only Red Auerbach and Phil Jackson have won more than Greg Popovich. So his best chance could be San Antonio, even if the Spurs don't land Wemby. They could get one of the other highly touted prospects. Who knows? They could even trade down if they see something they like. Or get existing NBA players in a deal from someone looking to trade up. There's plenty of teams that are in the middle of the standings right now that may want to roll the dice on a great prospect, and maybe the combination of Simmons and Pop could entice other teams at the trade deadline. Maybe Dame would like what he sees, or a sleeping underachiever decides to blow it up. Anything is possible in the NBA, and if a team is willing to trade Kevin Durant, they are willing to do almost anything. So, from Ben Simmons being in trade talks again to being the first overall pick in the 2016 NBA draft, that is why Ben Simmons needs to be traded immediately.